All right, so last week we looked at this data, the sales 2017 to 2020. We actually combined all the data from a particular folder. So I have the data sitting on my desktop. Let me drag it here. So this is from here. We created a folder called Power Query, and we actually kept the data that we want to work with. So we have all this data here, right? So we picked all this data and we put all of them as a process data here in a process data file, right? So that is the end product of all the data combined. And at the end of the day, I think we had over 117,000 rows. Yeah, 106,269 rows for all of them combined. So now, what I want us to look at is to show you some other things you can do with Power Query. We have something called calculated columns, and also we have measures. Measures are more or less like formulas for you. Okay, like how you can create formulas in Excel to do some calculations or let's say aggregations for you on certain numbers, or even creating measure to do some counting for you, or maybe a formula in Excel to do some counting of a particular database on certain condition for you. Those are some of the things you can also do in Power Query, but they are automated as opposed to you doing it in Excel. So they are automated. Let's see how you can achieve some of those things. Okay, so we have our data here. This is the data actually processed from the various years. So first of all, I'll click on the query here. So that's this query up here. You have the table design and you have the query. I'll click on the query here. Then I'll go to edit. I'll go to edit query. So when you go to edit query, it gives you another interface. It gives you another interface. That is the Power Query interface. Okay. So we are now in Power Query. We've actually launched Power Query by just clicking on the query and going to edit. Let me close it and do it again. So So I just want everyone to have a clear idea how it is done. So I just close it. You can click on the query here, right? You can click on the query here. Okay. Maybe assuming you are in the home, you just click on the query. You come to edit, and it will take you to Power Query. So as it has taken us there, or you can still close and load and go to the data. You can go to the data and go to get data and go to launch Power Query editor. Okay, it will also still take you to Power Query. But note something here. Because of my existing queries, that's why you're seeing this query. I've already worked with Power Query. Other than that, you won't see this query there. Let me demonstrate that. So I'll hide this data. Then I'll create a new Excel sheet, right? So I'll create a new Excel sheet. Let's say test. So I'll open this test sheet. Okay. So I have this sheet open. These are the only options you see. Sorry. I have this sheet open. These are the only options. You don't see the query here, right? You don't see the query here. Here, what you can do is to pick the data and go to launch Power Query to see the Power Query interface. But because we've already worked with Power Query, okay, that is why the query is appearing in the other sheets. But here, I will still close and load and see what happens. doesn't load anything. There's no data processed with Power Query, so doesn't show us that. I think I'm back. So because here no query is activated, you don't see that query option. So I'll close this sheet and go back to the original sheet. So here already you've worked with query and it should show you this query tab. Other than that, if you don't see it, you can still launch your Power Query by going to this side, the launch query editor. Go to the data tab, go to get data and launch Power Query. Okay, like how you picked the data initially, we also have these options for you to launch your Power Query, like the things you've already done already. Go back to those ones and do some edits on the existing things you've already done in Power Query. So I think that is fine. So I'll launch my Power Query and we have our data. So we brought in 2018, we brought in 17, 20, and at the end of the day, we appended all of them. So when you are appending, as I said last week, when you are appending, the data, the existing data comes in as rows to add to the new data comes in as rows to add to the existing data. So assuming you have 20 data points in here, maybe column 1 to let's say 20. When you are adding this, let's say up to 40 from a new sheet, they will be added over here. They won't be adding like columns. Okay. But when you are merging, look at just observe these icons here. You see the merging. We have these two tables icon here showing side by side. But when you are appending, you see there's plus. So this plus icon is telling you that you are adding more data in the to the rows. Okay, so the append actually add more rows, but merging will add more columns. So understand it in that way. So look at the append symbol as well. Okay, so that is it. And what I want us to look at today is called calculated columns. Calculated columns. Basically, you adding a new column based on a particular formula to the existing columns. Here, you have the revenue column, right? You have the revenue column. But the revenue column, let's ask ourselves, is it actually even right? Let's check the quantity sold and the price. So I'll drag the price to the quantity sold section. And also let me bring the revenue is also here. Here, even though here we have zero quantity sold, but it's telling us okay, the price is 99.9 and the revenue is zero. So that makes sense. But here, check this. Here is one. The quantity sold is one. And the price is 9.99. But it's telling us the revenue is 9.25. 9.25. So here, is it actually correct? But it probably can be that maybe there was some discounts in there. But here, I don't want us to work with the discounts for now. So I think we've taken all those ones out. So assuming that we want to recalculate the revenue based on just the price and let's say the quantity sold, that is when we can leverage on a calculated column to do that. Okay. So as I said, calculated column is basically you adding a new column based on a formula that you want. So here I'll look at how to do that. If I want to do that, we have these tabs. We have the home, the transform, and the add column. So add column, that is where you can see the option to add other columns to this data. But here we have custom from example. You have custom column. You can also invoke a custom function. But here, what you want to use now is to add what? A custom column. Please, can you hear me? I think someone is asking.
Yeah, I can from my own end, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, I think that is his network. All right, so I want us to add a new column based on a formula. That new column, bear in mind that its name is called calculated column. That is the technical term when it comes to dealing with Power Query. It's called calculated column. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. As I said, if you want to add a calculated column, we have this option here. So let's go with the custom column. So I'll click on custom column, right? I'll click on that. Then it gives us this view or this dialog box for us to do whatever you want to do with it. So here I want to give it a name. Let's say um revenue, or let's say maybe actual revenue or something. So actual revenue. Then here you have actual revenue. Okay. Then here you see that at this part where you see the available columns, that box there, it's giving you the various column headers we have for this particular data. So you have the order ID, product ID, and so forth. But what you are interested in here is the quantity sold and the price to calculate the revenue. So I will select the quantity sold. Okay. Maybe you can double click to bring it there, or you can just, I'll take it off here. You can select it and say insert, or you can just double click and it will come here. Yeah, hello. Do you have any
So
question?
can you just take a few seconds back after you created the column from I
So
think
let
I didn't custom from the
so,
custom column.
so let me cancel this. Okay. So I've canceled that. Let me take it again. Okay. So you can just click here, right? So before that, you be at the home. Mostly you be at the home. You have to go to the add column. If you go to transform column, you don't see those options. Okay. If you go to transform, you don't see. If you go to home, here you also don't see that option to add a new column. But when you come to add column, that is when you see these options. Okay. So here you go to custom column, and now you can rename it. Let's say um maybe new underscore revenue underscore revenue. And as I said, you can either double click to bring it here. You have the available columns. The available columns. So here we are bringing in the price and the quantity sold to calculate the revenue. So that means we are just multiplying the two together. Okay, the two columns together. So at every row, the columns will be multiplying at every row. So all the 106,000 rows, all of them will be multiplying to give you the final results. So basically, that's what is happening. So I'll double click the quantity sold, right? And I'll say times. So you use the star symbol times what the price. So I also double click to bring in the price. Then the check down here is saying that no syntax errors have been detected. That means tells us that our formula is fine and you are good to go. So I'll click on OK. I'll click on OK. Then now it's showing us the new revenue column here. Okay, so let me drag it and bring it to the old revenue. You realize that here we are getting 9.9, but here it's still 9.25, right? So there are some differences. Okay, there are some differences here. So let's maintain this one, the new revenue column we've created so far, and work with it. So here, 27.6, you have 29.85. So I'll delete this part. Okay, so we actually work with the new revenue. So do you have any questions on this? Does it make sense to you? Do you understand what is going on?
Okay, I have a question, sir.
Okay, sure.
Yes, sir. So now that we have our data set, every time we have our data set,
Mm-hmm.
uh, do we have to always create a calculated column for everything, or is just to checkmate
Yeah,
the data set?
I'm not getting the last statement. I don't know if I'm the only one working or hello, hello. Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
The normal
Please, can you hear me? I don't know if my network is slow here.
can you hear me? Hello,
I think we were breaking. I don't know whether
I
it's
can
from
hear
my
you.
end.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, sure. So, can you repeat the last
I can
statement
hear
you
you, sir.
made?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I said that every time we want to work around
Yeah.
our data like this, must we always go through the calculated colon, or it's just for you to test run the data if it's
Oh no. So every data comes with its own needs. So here you realize that the revenue column doesn't contain
uh,
the right numbers, right? So
correct or not?
that's why we are creating this calculated column to fix that particular issue. So if you don't need to calculate, maybe put in a new column, just forget about that. And mostly the calculated columns they take a lot of processing memory. Okay, take a lot of RAM to process all this. But if you have just a measure, you also have something called measures. Okay, if you have just a measure, that one is easy. So let me go over what I was saying. So as I said, calculated columns take a lot of RAM space. If you don't really need the calculated column, just go with measures. Measures are basically formulas that you write to achieve a particular maybe KPI. If you need to analyze your data, create some visuals, then it's better you stick with measures. Unless it's very important for you to get a calculated column, just don't use calculated column. So, but now over here, even though you've converted or you've done the calculation here, but you have to convert to a number. So you can either go with currency or let's say a whole number. But let's stick with currency now. Okay, so let's stick with currency. If you can avoid calculated column, just avoid it. Yeah, unless it's really important. But you'll be doing measures. That is when you get to Power BI. But with Excel, you won't really look at measures in Excel. So here, let's just focus on how we are doing these calculated columns in Power Query in Excel. Okay, then there are other things you can also do over here. At the add column section, aside the calculated column, you can also, assuming that this data came in without any ID to track it, you can also add some IDs here. Maybe you can add an index column. So you can either start from 0, from 1, or you can say a custom ID. So let's do a custom ID and see. So I'll insert a custom ID. Let's say starting from let's say 1, and it will increment by let's say by 3. Okay, let's do the increment by 1 so that it's consistent. So it tells you that you are starting at 1, but when it's put 1, the next number will be 2. Then it continues that way. The next number will be 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is the increment. So you press OK. You press OK. Then when you check here, when you check the end, you should see your index that you've added. And that's enough. You should see the index you've added here. And it also appears in the apply steps. Over here, you see that in the apply steps. So you have it here. You can also drag it. Okay, as I'm dragging, you can drag it and probably put it at the at the beginning. Okay, so let me leave it here. But I realize that this is taking some time for me to actually do that. So I'll leave it and it's at the beginning. But aside that, you can also click, assuming I want to bring this revenue at the beginning, I can right click, then go to move. Okay, I can go to the beginning or maybe to the end or to right. Maybe I want to move it to the right by one or to the left by one. Let's say I want it to go after before it should come before the price. So it's going to the left, right? So I'll click left. So now you have it before the price. Okay. You have it before the price. So let's see on our own. Let's explore some of these options. Over here, you have a lot of options. Even this one alone, if you say you want to look at all these options, it will take us some time. Then you can remove a column. You can remove other columns. You can duplicate column. Okay. So assuming I want to duplicate this revenue column, I can duplicate it. Okay. So I have a copy of that here, but I don't need it here. So remove duplicates in this column. So assuming that here, um, let me check this product ID here. If there are duplicates, let me remove that. So remove duplicates. And after that, let's see the total we have. Let's count. Let's go to transform, then do count rows. Count rows. Count rows. It's telling us we have 643 unique IDs out of the total of 106,000. So let's remove this. Okay. I'll remove the duplicates as well. Let's check. Let's do a count of this product IDs. Let's do a count. So go to transform, then do a count of the rows. Here is 106,000. But when you remove the duplicates over here, let's go to remove duplicates. After removing the duplicates, now let's do the count again. Bear in mind that when you want to do the count, you have to go to the transform tab before you can do the count. So click on count rows. And now you have 643. So it tells you there are a lot of duplicates in there. But over there, it's possible to get duplicates because someone can buy more products. Okay. Yeah, so sorry. You can have even one person can buy multiple uh twice of that product. And assuming I go to a supermarket and I buy, let's say, two Android phones, all are Samsung, and maybe the same type of Samsung, I buy two, maybe one for myself and one for a friend. Okay, I buy two. They all have the same product ID. So even though I'm the same customer, okay, I'll have those two IDs as the same. If the product ID for Samsung is, let's say, P0684, it has to appear twice because I've bought the item was twice. So the ID will be duplicated. So getting product IDs duplicated here is not a problem. Okay. Then for the order ID, let's check the order ID over here. Let's let's remove this step, the duplicates. Let's count the other IDs. These are part of the exploration you have to do. So let's count the other ID. So I'll go to transform, then I'll do count rows. Okay. So here 106,268. Now let's run duplicates on this. So let's run a test of duplicates. So remove duplicates over here. So here um it has removed the duplicate, but let's check how many we have now. So if we do a count of that, let's check. It's telling us we have 88,147. So it tells you that there were some orders that were duplicated. So that is possible. So because maybe an order will, even if the order fails, I think maybe if you have a better system, it should pick you should pick a different ID for that particular order. So I don't see why you should have duplicated order IDs because every order should be treated as a single order on its own. Okay, so assuming I come to your shop, then I buy uh, a particular item maybe twice, or maybe I buy maybe separate items. Maybe I buy a phone and I buy maybe a laptop. I have made two purchases, but maybe assuming that bought them, I bought the phone first, and later I said, oh, okay, let me buy a laptop as well. So I have two orders. So at least I should have separate order IDs for the laptop and the phone, because I didn't combine that order. Let's say I separated the orders. I bought this one first, then later I said, okay, I've changed my mind. I want to buy a laptop in addition. So you made a new order for me. Then I bought that one. So I should have a different order IDs. So what I'm trying to say is just that every order should have its own unique ID. So the other IDs here should be unique. But the product IDs, they can be duplicated, because you can have someone buying or multiple people buying almost the same products. And if it has the same ID for that particular product, they should be duplicated. So that is fine. And also the store, you can have multiple uh, people buying from the same store. And if maybe the store ID is 0097, then now that we have multiple people who have bought from that store should get duplicated store ID. So that is also fine. But this other ID, it has to be unique. Okay, like the index you've added. This index, it's the most unique in this particular data. Everything about this is unique, because here it's counting from 1 to 106,000. But I realized that with this other ID, we had duplicates in there. So in doing your data analysis, you also have to find a way to deal with what? Duplicates. Investigate that and see how you can um, deal with duplicates. So, okay, so you don't just get the data and you start maybe cleaning. You can clean, but when you are done, you have to check for all those things, right? But when you are done cleaning and you just okay, I'm done cleaning, I won't check for duplicate. You start doing your analysis, you end up getting some KPIs that will actually not make sense to you. So let's be mindful of that. All right, so let's explore the other options here too as well. Aside the duplicates, you can also remove errors. When errors are appearing in your columns, you can remove them. Okay, but you have to also be careful the kind of errors you want to remove. That you resolve what is causing the error, or you have to be very careful before you say you want to remove the errors. Probably there's some number columns. So assuming you have, let's say, the price, and because there's some text in there, you are having errors. You are having errors in the price column when you maybe transform the price column. The best thing to do is to replace those texts in there with say zeros, so that you don't have those errors, than you having to going to remove what is going to remove the errors. You have to investigate what is causing the errors rather, and deal with that instead of removing the errors. So you have to be very careful about that as well. Then you can also change the types, okay, by clicking here. Change the type. Over here, you see that if I check the quantity sold, I can just click on this 1, 2, 3 here, this icon here. When I click, I still get all these options that came. Okay, so this is different way. I click here, I get these options, or I right click on the whole column. Okay, right click on the whole column and you get these options with this particular one as well. So you have you can convert to decimal, you can convert to currency, you can convert to whole number. So assuming that I want to convert, let's say, the revenue here, it's it actually in number and text. So you have what ABC 1, 2, 3. You don't know the right format to use. But now you've decided that okay, you want to go with, let's say, a whole number. So I either click here and change it here, or I can right click on the column, okay, and now I'll come to change type. When I go to change type, we have other options here as well. So now I can pick what? A whole number here. And now I'm good to go. And now you see that It has changed the icon from ABC123 to 123. This is for a whole number. This is 1.2 is for decimals. Here it's telling you that this 1 2 is a whole number. If you see this table or this box thing here is for a date. If you see ABC, it tells you the content is just what? Text. The content of the column is what? Text. Okay, here it tells you the content is what? Date. Here it tells you the content is a whole number. Here it tells you it contains what? Decimals. Okay, so you have to be very careful about also the data type. If you don't have the right data type, you have issues. All right, so let's be mindful. Okay, let's explore again the other options. Aside this, we have other ones here. You can explore them later. But let's check this transform. Here, with the transform, you can do a lot of things. Here, you can round it. Let's pick something that you can round. So let's check the price. Okay, let's check the price. So you can right click, go to transform. You can round the price to up or down, or you can select your custom rounding you want to do. Let's say I want to do custom, so I'll do that. Click. Then I want to run by how many decimal places? Maybe I want to run by, let's say, 0. Okay, so I'll put 0. Okay, so now it's here by saying 0, it's kind of rounding everything up here, right? So I'll put 0 there. It was 99.99, but it has now given us what? 100. Let's remove this and now do it again. But this time round, I'll go to, let's say, down. Okay, I'll round down. So click on down. And now it gives us 99 instead of 99.99. Okay, so I'll remove this one too as well. Then we have other options. You can convert to absolute value, you can do factorial, you can do base, whatever, logarithm, natural logarithm. So these are some mathematics concepts coming in here as well. And you can also do a power square, you can square it, you can find a cube and all those things. You can do a square root of this, but most of these things you not just need them. Whatever things you'll be needing here is basically the rounding and this text transforms. Okay, mostly this text transforms. So let's see how you can use the text transforms. Do you have anything text? All right, so let's check the product ID. Okay. Ah. Ah. So let's check the product IDs. See how we can use text to transform some of this. So I'll right click, go to transform. Okay, transform. Hey, why is it giving me just that option? That is okay. You see that it's kind of quite interesting. When you click on a number column, this number column, when you click on this, when you go to transform, you see different options, right? You see different options. You see round, you see all these things. Then you see text transform here as well. But ideally, they are not text, they are numbers. But when you click on a column with just text and you go to transform, you only see the transformations you can do on text. You don't see on the numbers, the options for the numbers. You don't see the factorial, you don't see the rounding, you don't see all those things. You only see just this. So here, you can say you want to turn everything into lowercase. So you only have P in there. So when I say lowercase, it will turn the P to lowercase. So let's observe that. So I'll pick lowercase. All right, so the P turns to what? Lowercase. Okay, but I don't want that. I'll remove that. Then also try again. I can now, if they are small letters. Anyway, let me turn to lowercase and convert to, let's say, I'll now convert it back to, let's say, capitalize each word. So I'll capitalize. Okay, now P comes back to the normal P, the capital P. I'll remove this. It's still in lowercase. Then I'll go to transform again. And now I want to turn to what? Uppercase. So P will now come to uppercase. But mind you that if you have any other text following, everything will be uppercase. If it's maybe PR something, everything will be powercase. Assuming maybe it's a name. Maybe here is, let's say, Prince in small letters. Everything will turn to capital letters. So that is basically what is happening. Let's see, do you have more options? You can trim, you can clean, you can check for the length, you can this JSON and XML, you will not need it now, so we will talk about that later. So here, assuming I want to check the length, so I'll select what? Length. So it gives you the length of the text in each of the columns. But it's clear that all of them are just 5. Okay. All of them are just 5. They don't go beyond 5. Because the product ID, let's let's go here. They have P0684. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The total length of the text in there is 5. So that is what it gave us here. We have 5. But when you click on this step, we can see for ourselves. So I'll remove this step. I'll remove the lowercase as well. Then let's try again. Let's check other options. The trim is basically when you have spaces. Okay, I think when you get to a classical example, when you need to use the trim, you observe you try that. The trim is going to remove spaces after and before the character, and clean is basically the same, but it works differently. You also look at that later. So I think these concepts are easy to understand. So let's look at other options. You also have replace values, replace errors. You can replace errors with something. You can also create a data type. But this one I've never been explored it before. I've never used that. You can also split columns. You can do the grouping. You can fill down. You can do a lot of things here. So I think with time you explore all of them. Use at least this one you will not look at it, but with time, with this splits, with the group by, with the fill on pivots and all this, you explore all of them. All right. So Cyril, you have a question?
Yes, so I want to know the group by or
Yeah.
usually the grouping. How does it work?
So
So let me give an example. So let's say I have a data set of, let's say, payment of customers, right?
yeah,
And each payment or each customer has like a payment group.
yeah. So maybe those who are coming with, let's say, credit card, those who are coming with Momo, those who are coming with uh cash.
Okay, no, let me classify it. So let's say some people are paying by 4 months, let's say by 3 months, by
Oh,
two
okay, okay,
months.
okay, okay.
In that sense, does the group perfectly group these ones in that category?
Yeah, so I can if you have the option for those terms, like if you have the 4 months, the 3 months, and let's say the 6 months in a separate column, you can group it by that. You can group the data by that. Those who are paying 6 months, those who are paying, you can group it by that.
Okay, so no. What about I have them in one column?
If you have
So I
it
have all
in,
those payments in one column.
so how do we identify without the columns telling us that okay, this is 6 months, this is 3 months. Those columns are not there, right? But
No.
then you know that this person is paying within 3 months, this person is paying within 6 months. Is there any indicator to tell us those in 6 months?
Yes. So there's a column by the name payment groups.
Mm-hmm.
So beneath that column, you get to know, okay, so this 4 months, this 3 months, this 4 months, this 3 months, this 6 months, right? In
Mm-hmm.
that sequence. So
Mm-hmm.
is the best practice to run like to I've forgotten the word. I've forgotten the word. We did it last week, also last 2 weeks. Um, it's not filter. I've forgotten the right word.
Slicer.
No, not really slicer. No, before we got to slicer, we did something else. I've forgotten the word. I'm surprised I've forgotten.
Um,
Oh, I've forgotten. And I insert tab. And I insert tab. That's the first thing. I've forgotten.
Okay, let me
Pivot. So
pivot.
pivot. Sorry. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you're doing pivoting the data.
Exactly. So is it best to pivot to know the various classification?
Uh, um, are you talking with regard to Power Query or with regard to the to the general data that you
Now
have?
I'm talking about Power Query. So I tried doing something not with the data you shared with us. So I tried doing something with another set of data,
Mm-hmm.
and I consolidated them like we did together,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was trying to explore to make some meaningful insight from the very data I've consolidated. Now,
Yeah.
I realized that
Mm,
some of the columns were aliens to other columns, right? So
mm-hmm.
let's say I combined three data sets.
Yeah.
So first data might have like payment, second data payment, third data payment. But
Mm.
then let me use like age. So first data had age, second and third had nothing like age. So when I consolidated them, I realized that the first data set had the age. Beneath it, then it had like value, value, value.
Okay.
I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So now, like, I have a whole list of questions to ask. So now the first one is it advisable to combine data that the attributes are not in relation to other data sets, or you have to in preparing Power Query, all attribute must be in other data sets like we did in this very one.
Yeah, you can combine, but then if you only need that data to make a decision, you can combine.
So that means with or without the attributes in other data sets, you can still combine, right?
Yeah, you can still combine.
So hmm, if you run your analysis, don't you think you have like not really a concrete information or insight? Because with the one I combined, like I said, so the other data set had no age. I'm not too sure, but for example's sake, so had like nothing like no age, right? So when I run analysis, right, using age, it might make sense for the first data set in the combined data, but other ones might not really give me anything else. I'll run those empty values as zero.
Yeah, so that's why I said earlier that if you need that data to get insights, fine, you can combine. But then you know that that data is not going to add anything to the insight or the analysis you are doing. Then why do you even combine in the first place?
Okay, so maybe let's say maybe some attributes in the first and second, or let's say like two or three columns.
So in that case, you can just merge, do a merge, and bring just those two columns to your
Oh, okay,
existing data.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You don't need
Uh-huh.
every information from each data set. Maybe you can pick
Okay.
one or two from one data set to add it to another data set. Then make your decisions with it.
Uh-huh. So you see, last week I was asking that, if not, I think between last week and last 2 weeks, I was finding out like, so presenting a data set to you, like, I don't really know how to frame the question, but then I'm sure maybe whoever gives you the data set, let's say your boss or your supervisor or something, will tell you that, okay, so make this meaning out of the data, right?
Yeah.
But in the absence of that, let's say you've been presented a data set, like you do something. What's the best thing to do? So let's say you have like three data sets and you have to do something. So what's like the right thing to do to start
So,
off?
so let me ask you, the person who gave you the data, what does he want you to do? So ask him. He has given you data. So sit with him. He gave you data. Okay, this is my data. Ask him, what should I do to the data? What do you want out of the data? So far as your data
Mm-hmm.
analysis, you don't just take data and say, okay, I'm going to analyze your data without asking
Mm-hmm.
questions. Sit with him. He is the stakeholder. He is the one. He knows. If he has a problem to solve with the data, ask him. Okay, so ask him all the things, all the insights, all the things that he wants to do with the data. Probably they want to know, oh, okay, we have a particular shop, or let me say they have a particular, let's say, product. They want to know how much people are buying from various locations and all those things. So you have to sit with him and like ask him more questions about what they want to achieve with that particular data.
Okay, right, sure.
Yeah. The split column and all these things. I think we've explored the split column. Okay, we've explored the split column already by when we did the quantity sold in the Excel. Yeah, so we've explored that one already. Because if you check the actual data here, the 2017 year, we had zeros plus some text. So we had zero sales and all those things. So we splitted them and had this, right? So that is fine. But if you check the actual data, I think you should see that in there. Let me go to this. So this is the actual data we had. If you check 2018 here, oh, I think because I'm in Power Query, I'm not able to open. Let me close. All right. So now, let me put that one there. So let me check 2017. 2017 here. Right. Okay. So we had this is the column you tend to quantity sold. So it had this. Okay, it had zero sales, five sales, and all those things. So you had to use the split to get this thing done. To take the text away like this. So you had to take this part away to just get a number in there. But then I think we've already achieved that with Power Query in this case. So you have all of them turned to numbers. But you realize that you even have some blanks in here. So let me filter out and see. Wow. So you have some blanks in here, but we didn't even observe that. Interesting. Entity sold. All right. So here, maybe we can put a zero. Okay. Here, I need to be in Power Query. So let me go to Power Query, then replace all those blanks with zeros. So let me go to data, get data, and launch the Power Query again. So here in this same data, I can filter the quantity sold, go to load more, and no, I don't see blanks. Oh, okay, they are appearing as nulls here. So these are the nulls. We can replace all these nulls with zeros so that we don't have issues later. So here I can replace values. So let's explore this. So I replace nulls. So you right click, go to replace values. Then you want to replace the nulls with what? Zeros. Then press OK. Alright, so when you now explore, I think it should look good now. So you don't have any nulls in there again. And so you have to be checking for all your columns to make sure that all the columns you are going to base your analysis on, they are all making sense. They don't have any characters you don't need. Let's check the price too. If you have any weird characters still in there. Okay, so I think that is also fine. Revenue. Oh wow, we have nulls in the revenue as well. Interesting. Hmm. Yeah, so it's basically where the quantity sold were all zeros. So if at the point, so here, let me remove this. Because you've done this here, I can drag this apply step and put it at the step where we did this calculation, before we did this calculation. And these nows that are appearing here should vanish in the revenue column. So now I'll take this and I'll go to this step after the removed columns. Okay, so I'll drop it after the index here, after the added index. So now let me filter, let me go to the last step, then filter the revenue. All where you are seeing now should now be resolved. Wow, we are still getting the nows. Okay, then I think they don't only appear at the zeros. Oh, sorry. I think here are all zeros. Okay, this should have solved it. But then if it doesn't work that way, then we have to ensure that you do this thing by ourselves. So here, over here in the quantity sold, okay, so in the quantity sold, you still have the now, but then this column here, this added index column here, let me drag it the last step, and you are getting errors. All right, so let me send it back and come here. Okay, so here that is fine. So in this case, you should have actually done all these things, replacing the nows before we even added these index columns. So now I want to add a step. I want to add an apply step in there. So I'll come here, you right click, replace values. I'll insert. I'll insert a step. Then I'll say now. Then I'll put zeros there. And I want it to be after this, so I'll drag it up. And added index. Let's click on that step and see if it fixes our issue. So where is the revenue? Okay, explore. You're still seeing the now in there. Okay, so let's check. Wow. Okay, so now let me see if I can fix that. I want to make sure this thing works. So removed columns. Uh, okay, this is when I remove this. So for this, added a custom. Oh, I think it's rather comes. Yeah, so we should have actually added it here. Added the custom here. Should have actually added it before this. So I think that is why we are not getting the right results. And now I've cleared all the steps, so I can't do it unless I redo all these things. So now um let me set a step over here. Okay, or after that. So I'll do the replace again. I'll put null in here. I'll put my 0. And now let's explore this. Okay, this one you've replaced them, so you shouldn't be seeing any null here. Okay, so this one is fine. But let's explore the revenue again. I'm expecting that you see the nulls in the revenue, they are still there. But now, in this case, you've done the replacements here. So let's add this step after before the added custom. So I'll add it there. Then I'll click on this. And now let's check the revenue. Or even I can come to the last step. Then let's check the revenue column, the new revenue. So this time round, I think it should fix our issue. So now all the nows are gone. So you only have to know where to put that particular step to get it working. Other than that, it won't work. So all like if we had done the proper thing or the right thing, would have gotten it worked long time ago. But because we were not putting it at the right place, we kept having issues with that. So you have to also look at some of those things. All right, so I think that is fine for that particular column. Then I can now decide to remove this guy. I don't need it. Yeah. Even after you've removed, you can still do these things you've done. So, all right. So, bear in mind that these steps are very, very important, and you shouldn't delete them anyhow. Like how I deleted mine, I had to now go back and redo them again. You have to be mindful of all this. All right. So now, let's see what again do we. Now, so far you've looked at all this. With this replace errors, you won't do it now. We'll come back to that later. The split columns, I think you already have a fair idea about that, where you can split by delimiter and all those things. You have a fair idea. And for fill, you can either fill a particular number up or down. Maybe you check a particular column. There are some empty or blanks in there, and you want to fill it down by a particular number. So let's say, let's check this stock. Let's check if we have any blanks in here. So we have nows in this one. Okay. So let's select this. Maybe select the 0. Okay. So where we are seeing from here. So here, let's see if we can fill this 0 down to cover for the nows in there and see if it works. So I'll right click here. Sorry, right click here. Then go to fill, let's say fill down and see what happens. Let's see if it fixes that. So now when you filter, you see all zeros. But when you click on this step, when you filter, you should see the nows. Okay, you should see the nows. But the last step, because you filled the nows down with zeros, that step actually took care of all the nows. But let's put it after this and see what happens. Okay, so now you explore further. You realize that you don't have the nows. You filled all the nows with what? Zeros. So you can also do that. You fill all the nows with zeros. Alright, so now I can take this guy off. Because you've already filled, you don't need that filter again. So I'll go to load more again, and it's still the same. The nows are filled with zeros. Alright, so I think the fill down is okay. And you can also do same thing by just picking the fill up instead of down. So it goes upward instead of downwards. Then this on pivot columns and on pivot other columns and this only, you will look at them later. The pivoting and on pivoting, they are quite um technical, so we have to make sure that we understand whatever goes on in there. All right, and you have to get a proper data to experiment with. Then you can also rename your columns. You can just rename it here if you want, or you can just double click to rename any of them. And we can also move, as I said, you can move it to the, let's say, the beginning. Maybe I want to move, uh, let me see, what can I move to the beginning? Maybe I want to move this date to the beginning. You can just move right to the beginning, and you have the date to the beginning. You can also move it back to what? To the end. So you can go to the end You can move left, right. So just explore. Just explore. All right. Then what again? This draw down. Let's see how it works. Draw down. You see that it gets you the data as just a list. That particular column you've selected as just a list. Okay. So that is it. Then think the last, let's convert this guy to, let's say, a currency. Then the last thing you need to look at is this add as new query. So maybe you can pick this one alone. We are adding just the product ID as a new query. You can pick a set of columns you want to maybe add as a new query, okay, to work with. So assuming I want to maybe separate these two data sets. Sorry, these data sets. Where from this product ID? Let me delete this. I think that is when I brought in this group by thing. So now I want to split, let's say, all the IDs. Maybe these IDs, I want to separate them. Okay, and leave just the index. Oh, I'll remove the index. Maybe I can add the index later. So maybe I want to. Oh, okay. I think not allowing me to add as a new. I think you can only from this option you can only add a single column, which is not a good idea. You can only add a single, but even it comes in as a list. So let's not use that for now. All right, so I'll remove this. But there's also a way to bring in other query. Maybe you can create a blank query here. You can create a blank query here. Where is it? Oh, why is it really not showing up? Okay, let's go to more. Oh no. Anyway, I don't see that option here, but I think it should be there. This is Excel, so it should be here. Yeah, so that is blank query. Can create a blank query and pick other thing. So maybe assuming I want to pick a particular Excel book. So far, we are also in this Excel workbook. So I can pick a workbook, then I can just bring my brackets, press enter, and we have this data selected. So I can click on this table and we have the data coming in through a blank query. Okay, so it's basically the same data. But then it tells you that when you have a workbook with multiple sheets, okay, you have a workbook with multiple sheets, you can bring all of them in together. You can bring all the data together, even if they have different column headers. Maybe you have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. They have different column headers. You can bring all of them together through a blank query. So that is also possible. All right. So even though you didn't see the option to add multiple here, but we can achieve it with this option by clicking and going to other sources. Then we can go in for a blank query. Right. So I think that is fine. And so far, let's see, we have explored most of the options here, but then I want you to have some time and look at all these, icons you see here. Just explore them at your own time. Yeah, this data that I will delete this blank query. I will delete it for now. So if you click on this data, we have we have this. But what if I don't need all this to make a decision? You can decide to choose particular columns, or you can even remove columns you don't need. Maybe you can select, let's say, You can select, let's say, order ID, product ID. Probably I don't need store ID. I need the date. I need quantity sold. I need price. I need revenue. And yeah, basically these are the things I want. Okay. So um I've selected this. What I can do is now go to what? Remove other columns. Okay. So remove other columns. So it only leaves the selected columns, the ones that I selected, and remove the ones that I didn't select. Okay, so that option is there. You can also click on a particular column and go to what? Remove. Or you can select multiple columns. Okay, you can select multiple and remove columns. Or come here and still remove them. Okay, so they are gone. Let me bring it back. Or you can also what? Remove rows. So just explore. Remove top rows, bottom rows, remove errors. Just explore them and choose columns. You can choose which columns you want to work with, or even go to a particular column. Okay, so I can go to just the product ID. Okay, so here I'll go to, let's say, maybe I have to navigate. I have like over 600 columns. Is it now that I want to scroll side before I get to the 600 column? So I can now come here, then go to columns, choose columns, then go to column. Then we just click here. Maybe I want to go to the delivery or promo type. Promo type is not showing in this view. Okay, so now I can say, okay, then it takes me to the promo type, right? So I don't have to scroll too much before I get there. So I'm just at the promo type. So now I can now delete. Okay, so I can now delete. Then I can also choose the columns I want to work with, as I said earlier. So probably I want the order date, the product ID, and maybe yeah, the order ID. Quantity, so let's say price, revenue. The rest I don't need them, so I'll just okay. Then I'm done. I've gotten what I want. Then I can run my analysis on just these columns I've selected. Okay. So that is fine. Just take your time and explore some of these things. Yeah, let's explore. All right, so I think our time is up. If you have any questions, we can ask them. But if you don't have questions, then we can you'll meet tomorrow as well. So if you have questions and you want to ask them tomorrow, that's fine. But for now, I think our time is up. So we'll end it here. We'll continue tomorrow. Hello? Hello? Okay, so if no one is talking, then
Yeah, sorry, I don't have question answer now. Mostly I'm not really practicing now, so I can
okay.
really respond if I have like a laptop on my side. But for now, no.
All right, sure. Okay, Junior, go ahead. Junior, if you have a question, you can ask. Yeah, Aziz, ask your question.
Right, boss. So thank you so much. So basically, used for just is it cleaning data and transforming data without sort of bringing out formulas just like Excel. You know, Excel we have to start cracking our brain with formulas, but then Power Query has inbuilt formulas. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so Power Query has inbuilt formulas for you to use, and you can also create your own formulas. But in Power Query, we call those ones measures. Okay,
Measures,
those
okay?
formulas you will look at them when you get to Power BI. When you get to Power BI, it's easy to work with those things than you having to do it in Excel.
So what we just do in Power Query is just to clean our data and make it more better in a tabular form, right?
Yeah, so that is what we are doing with Power Query now. But if you want to do if you want to do measures in Excel, you may have to learn another concept which is called Power Pivots. Okay. Yeah, but then I don't want us to delve into that one now.
Okay. Sorry. For Power Query now, can it work with, is it only tables, structured data it can work with, or it can also work with sort of unstructured data that is just.
So I think do you have any unstructured data you want to experiment with? Hello? Hello?
Hello, I didn't get your.
Yeah, I said, do you have any unstructured data you want to experiment with? I think it comes with different data sources. So if your data
No, I don't.
is so I don't know the kind of data you want to experiment with, but then here we are mostly dealing with relational databases, right? So if you can come up with a data like that and you want us to explore to see how you can work with, you can look at that. Hello? But I think the concept is okay. Is it technical for others to understand? Did any of you find it challenging to understand what you did? Walali and Isaac, I've not heard from you today. I think Eugenia says she's
Yes,
okay.
yes. So from me, because of the network interruptions, we are not able to follow smoothly. So what we try to do is to watch the videos. But I think the last one I was watching, I don't know, maybe because you use two screens, uh, most of the questions people were asking didn't appear in the previous video. Uh, so I don't know if you can look at that also.
Oh, okay.
So the interaction part was not like, it was not very clear like as we are having it now. If there's internet, everything is fine. But because I keep going, I've gone and came like 3 or 4 times.
Mm,
So I'm not able to follow smoothly. So if you can look at the recording part with
oh,
the audio, not your audio, like the interaction with other people, the questions they are actual action.
oh,
That one
okay.
was not,
I think
yeah.
when people are also asking questions, they should um try to increase their voices more or the volumes more so that you can hear them better. Maybe if their voice is low, then probably I cannot really capture it as it's supposed to be captured from my end. So yeah, I think that's
Okay,
also a
okay.
factor.
Okay, but in all, I think the videos you sent later is doing what we are not able to complete because of network issues. So I think it's fine.
Okay, then I'll try and work on this one and upload it as well.